Well, hey, friends, happy Thursday. The piles are dissipating in the new place. That door isn't hung yet on that cabinet, but it's okay. We don't have any artwork up yet. I feel like that always goes up last because you got to get a vibe for the place, see where you really want things. So the new place is coming along. Thank you so much for those of you who've reached out and sent me congratulations on the big move. I really appreciate it. All right. I can barely contain myself because we have an episode today that has been months in the making. This week, it is the top of my list. It is the only thing we need to think about. And I need you to listen so carefully because I need you to remember this and take it with you for the rest of your entire life so that you can use it forevermore. The title of this episode is This is an Issue, Not an Ish Me, AKA when a problem actually has nothing to do with you. The reason it has such a catchy, interesting title is because of I'm going to call her a mutual friend of all of ours now because you're going to be thanking her. Because of privacy policies, I'm not going to tell you how I know this person. I actually don't know her. I heard about her from a friend. I heard about this phrase, and I immediately was like, hold on, wait a minute. This is an issue, not an ish me. Telling everyone I know. So I apologize that it took so long for me to actually tell you, but here we are and we have to talk about it. We have to talk about how this phrase can free you from so much and empower you to do so much. Let's get into the nitty gritty. What we're really talking about is how to deal with, accept, move on from, respond to people having some kind of issue or a circumstance feeling like some kind of problem. Now, our instinct, for better or worse, can often be to make things our fault, to assume we did something wrong, or to assume we are wrong in some way and take the blame and assume responsibility, and therefore immediately need to jump into action to fix the problem. So, off the bat, I just want you to think about how often is this happening in your life? How much are you encountering these so called problems with maybe your place of work or maybe someone at work? How much are you getting pushback or attitude or guilt trips from people? And how often do you find yourself assuming responsibility, assuming that because things feel like they've gone wrong, you have done something wrong? What I want you to notice is that living in this pattern with this default running the show, you are constantly put on the defense, meaning you walk out of your house and you're not proactively going after your goals and dreams and aligning with your values and making empowered decisions. You are walking out of your house, apologizing, trying to fix things that other people are unhappy about, making yourself small, none of which focuses on what you truly think about what's going on and what you want to do about it. Living in this way where you are constantly on the defense keeps you from being able to see a situation with any objectivity, where you might be able to imagine many explanations for what's going on. Assuming the defense position limits your perspective because now you're just assuming everything's your fault and you're going into auto let me fix that. Let me apologize. Let me accommodate mode. Now, when these kinds of situations would come up in client sessions, I used to offer this question, and I still find it helpful. It's just not as poignant and sparky as the title of the episode. What I would offer is what if this is 100% about them and 0% about you? What if this person's extreme reaction has 100% to do with them, where they're coming from, how their day's gone, what their conditioning in their life has been? And it has 0% to do with you. Now, what I do is I explain our mutual friend's wisdom and give them this phrase to put in their pocket and keep for all of time. What if this is an issue, not an ish me? Is there, in fact, an issue at all because you have an issue and not, in fact, because I am creating one? Let's do an example to make this super, super crystal clear. I had a client long ago whose brother in law wanted to throw his daughter's party at her house. Obviously, for privacy purposes, names and genders and dates have all been changed in this story, but it stands and it's based in truth. So, this client's brother in law said, "Hey, I want you to host the party for my daughter at your house." And my client said, "Nope, I don't want to do that." And said brother in law essentially blew a gasket, got very upset. She was inclined to go on the defense. Her initial assessment of this situation was, this is a problem. It's my fault. Am I being selfish, rude, thoughtless? Holy moly, I've created a problem and now I have to fix it. How many times have any of us been in this kind of situation? Take a step back with me for a second. This is what we did in our session. Try to see the most neutral version of this story that happened with no judgments or editorializing, just the facts of what occurred. He wanted you to host a party. When you told him you didn't want to, he rolled his eyes and said the words, "Wow, I guess we're not that important to you," and closed the door with force. Neutral, right? Nobody's in the right, nobody's in the wrong. We're just explaining the neutral version of what happened. Helps you take an objective lens because you have to detach from any stories about somebody yelled and I pissed him off and blah, blah, blah. Then I want you to add in some decision coaching principles, a layer on top of that neutral version of the story. Principles such as you are allowed to want whatever you want. You don't have to make decisions out of obligation or guilt. You are allowed to only make decisions that you like your reasons for. Multiple thoughts and feelings can be true at the same time. For example, you can love your brother in law and niece and not want to throw a party for them at the same time. Both things can be true. This lets you access the wisdom that is ish you, ish me. Your mind minions might have you believe his frustration is evidence there is a problem and you have created it and it's your job to solve it. But is this not, in fact, imaginarily talking to your brother in law, an ish you, and not an ish me? Is there not a world in which said brother in law could have responded, "Of course, no problem. It's your house, it's your bandwidth. I validate and respect your boundaries." Oh, yes, there is. That world does exist. Now, I want you to remember that we are not adding this ish you, ish me principle into our decision mastery arsenal as a way to avoid taking responsibility for all things for the rest of time. Not the goal. We are putting a speed bump in the road on the way to you assuming responsibility for every so called problem you encounter. Because in that example of the brother in law with the party, you might default to the perspective of if I were different, there would be no issue. If I just did what he wanted, there would be no problem. Therefore, I am creating the problem. The problem is my fault. And we don't want you to get stuck in that corner because not every problem is your fault just because it might not be there if you were just different. Issue ish me lets you see another side of things. It lets you imagine that someone else might be the source of the supposed problem, which in fact, holy moly, get ready for this one, frees you up from having to see things as a problem at all. Whoa, wait a minute. Are you telling me that if my brother in law blows up at me and knocks a trash can over on his way out of my driveway, there might not be a problem? Kirsten. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. That just might be what's happening right now. And that means there might not be anything for you to fix. Because listen, if every time somebody pushes back or gives you attitude or guilt trips you, you assume something has gone wrong that should not have happened, You are setting yourself up to live a life of pretending to like things you don't like, be a person you aren't, make yourself small and bend yourself into pretzels to accommodate other people's agendas and preferences and rules. But what if nothing has gone wrong? Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't have a reaction to a situation you don't like. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, what if nothing has gone wrong here and this is just what's happening? What if your place of work not being set up to support your work life balance isn't a problem, let alone a problem that you are creating? Do you know how many conversations I've had with people who think that they are just being the unreasonable, selfish ones who aren't willing to give up enough because everyone around them is willing to be on call all the time, even though that's not what they're being paid for, or do work for free because that's what you're supposed to do. And they assume because they don't want to fall in line with these standards or the assumptions that they're the problem. But what if there's not a problem? What if that's just how this organization is set up? And what if you are allowed to want whatever you want? What if any supposed conflict that comes from you not wanting to answer an email at 9 a.m. on a Saturday or 11 p.m. on a Tuesday is an ish them and it's not an ish you? If that's the case, then you get to stop examining what's wrong with you and you get to own what you want and how you feel. What if your mom, thinking you're being disrespectful and selfish by spending Thanksgiving skiing with your spouse instead of with the family, is not a problem? Hypothetical mom, we love you, but this sounds like an issue, not an ish me. What this issue ish me principle is really effective at is helping you see other people's agency. Because as much as you can choose what to think, what to believe, how to react, how to respond to your reaction, because maybe you didn't have the perfect first reaction, because maybe sometimes you're still a human. Just as much as you have agency in what you think, feel, and do, other people have just as much agency. Your mom choosing to think what she thinks, her prerogative. And if it creates an issue, it sounds like, yeah, that's an ish you, not an ish me. I want you to remember other people can decide to make X mean Y or X mean Z. Other people can make their feelings your fault in their own head. Other people can be attached to one thing being right and every other way being wrong, or not. At least if you can access that perspective where you see your mom's agency and you see a world in which she could choose to think your holiday plans mean you hate her, or she could choose to think your holiday plans mean you love skiing with your spouse. At least if you can access that perspective, you can take the next action that is most aligned with what you really want. At least then you don't default to canceling your plans and doing what mom wants because that will fix the problem. And you don't spend the next 72 hours feeling like a horrible person because that's what your mom wants you to believe, which she might not, but that's a discussion for another session. At least then you can approach her as your most authentic self and say, hey, Mom, I love you. Me going on this trip does not mean anything about what I feel for you or the family or Thanksgiving. It only means this is what I want to do right now for that long weekend. And then the ball's in her court. She can choose to believe what you're saying. She can choose to believe what she wants. It does not have to be your responsibility. It does not have to be an ish me talking to you. Now, I know another example we gave was of places of work. And I know this is a huge one that people can really struggle with to not take responsibility for every supposed problem they encounter. So I want you to also remember, as much as other people have the same agency as you do, organizations are not living your life. You are. So if you're involved in some kind of organization or some kind of industry that doesn't seem to like what you like and doesn't seem to support what you want, I don't want you to assume you are in the wrong. It might be an issue talking to the organization. It might be your problem that I don't want to follow your rules or agree to your assumptions. And you might just have a golden opportunity to make some powerful decisions that are more aligned with who you really want to be and how you really want your life to feel. So ask this question this week or this month, the next time a so called issue comes up and you notice yourself going inward, assuming responsibility, going on the defense, telling the version of the story where you created a problem. And just check, is this an issue or is this an ish you? And I don't actually have to take responsibility for this at all. See what it frees you up to see and think and feel and do from an empowered place. I can't wait to hear what you think of this new principle. Thank you to our mutual friend for bestowing this wisdom upon us. I don't know if you made it up or where you heard it, but I'm giving you credit. And I hope you know I'm grateful. You have helped a lot of people because I've shared this with a lot of clients. You've helped a lot of people free themselves from default wrongness. And I just want everyone to think about what if you could live the rest of your entire life not assuming you're in the wrong, you did something wrong, every problem is your fault, everyone else's feelings are your fault. I promise you're still going to take responsibility for the things you do and the mistakes you do make. We're all going to keep humaning. I guarantee this is not going to make you some kind of selfish egomaniac. You are too far away from that for that to be a concern. We can talk about it later. As always, I want to remind you if you want help with this, because you do have a pattern of overassuming responsibility or being overly consumed with other people's feelings to the point of ignoring or bypassing or smallifying your own, let's talk about working together because these are habits that we can change. And people's lives get so much richer when they really let themselves be honest about what they authentically want and think and feel and stop making everything an ish me. So go to kirstenparker.com/schedule. You can book your free consult. We're just going to talk about what you want to achieve, feel, experience in the next few months. What is going to need to happen in order to do that? What's going to get in the way? We're going to talk about the best way we can work together because we have some options. I hope you run with this principle, put it in your pocket and keep it there forever. And I hope you have a beautiful weekend. And I'll see you next Thursday. Hey, want to find out your decision style? Obviously, go take the decision style quiz. It's in the show notes and at kirstenparker.com/quiz. We all have our style when it comes to making decisions, but do you know how to use your default way of thinking to your advantage? Or do you mainly get stuck in the most annoying parts of overthinking and people pleasing? The decision style quiz has your answers, my friend. Take it right now at kirstenparker.com/quiz.